Please go ahead and turn in your Bibles to the book of Isaiah, chapter 46. Today is really part 3 in a sermon series that we've started called Back to the Future. In a world where everybody is trying to go back to the past, God is calling us to go back to the future. Let's get some understanding of what we're talking about. This sermon series is intended to get you to understand that your destiny has already been defined and that you need to have your purpose revealed. Isaiah 46 verse 10, it says, I make known, God is saying, I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times what is still to come. I say, my purpose will stand and I will do all that I please. I don't know how many of you are old enough to have watched the movie Back to the Future. Anybody watch the movie Back to the Future? There's a bunch of them, right? And in this movie, they called it Back to the Future, but what they were actually doing was going back to the past. Every time they had a problem in the present, they would go back to the past to fix it. And they would go to the future, but they really had to go back to fix it, right? We have come to discover that there is no way for you to go back to the past unless you find some kind of time machine, and we don't have that. But what we have is something better. God is saying to us today that if you have problems in your present, right, what you need to do is you need to go back to the future that He has already set for you. What God does is that He goes to the future. Again, here is the picture. Just watch me. We're in our present, right? This is your future. God goes to the future and He sets your destiny. He goes to a time in the future. He sets your purpose and He sets your destiny. And He starts from the future and then He takes you back to your beginning. So your beginning is here, but God's beginning is at the end. God starts at the end. How many of you understand that? God started with your end. Your destiny has been defined. Somebody say, my destiny is already defined. If I can just have that revealed to me, then I will know what I need to be going after. So you must have purpose revealed. Somebody say, destiny defined. So, purpose revealed. Purpose revealed. Today, on the topic of purpose, I'm talking about pre-purpose purpose. Somebody say pre-purpose purpose. The other day, a couple months ago, I was at a restaurant. I was at Island Grill, all right? And I'm there, and I'm at the cash register, okay? And I'm checking out. I'm there with my then 3-year-old daughter, Amaro, okay? And I'm at the cash register, and I'm cashing out, and we're alone, and I look around, and I don't see her. I look around, and I don't see her. I say, oh, my gosh. So 1 second, and I back off, and I look down, and I spot her doing something I don't ever want to see her doing again. Right? She's like this. Just watch me. She's like this. And she's gazing at the rear end of a young lady. And she's like, because she's blown away by what she sees. She's staring. And of course, I see her. I see what she sees. And I see her and I go and I grab her. And I said, no, baby, you can't do that. What she was looking at is a young lady standing here waiting on her food. And she had on a pair of shorts that everything was outer door. Somebody say outer door. It wasn't inside, it was outside. So I said, baby, you can't do that. You can't just stare at people, especially when things are outer door. Right? And I pulled her and I said, no, I have to lift her up and I'm hushing her, you know, praying over her eyes and her mind. And I said, baby, you can't do that. She says, daddy, daddy. I say, what happened? She said, that girl is not a shorts girl. I said, what? She said, she is not a shorts girl. What she was trying to say is, she was doing shorts, but she wasn't supposed to do shorts. Somebody said she never ready. So when we went in the car, I had to have a talk with her, you know, to minister to her. And I said, I'm sorry for the fact that you had to say that, and I'm trying to explain. I said, what did you mean? She said, well, she's just not, she had on short shorts, but she's not a short shorts girl. I said, well, baby, maybe she's just not a short shorts girl yet. I'm trying to work this thing out for her. So maybe she just wasn't ready, and I had to explain. I said, here is how life is. In the world of clothing and attire and what people wear, you have the before clothes. And the before clothes may be appropriate and fitting, maybe a little bit bigger. And then persons can go through a transformation, right, where they will put on an after outfit, which is maybe a little bit smaller. Somebody say before, and then a transformation, and then an after clothes, right? And an appropriate shorts, right, before, and after a short shorts. And I said all that happened is that this young lady put on her after shorts before she put on her before shorts. And I said, what happens in life, baby, is that some people want to put on the after before the before. Some people want to do after before they are supposed to do after. So today, as a pastor, I'm making somewhat of a public service announcement, asking that everyone make sure that they wear the before you wear the after. Because there are children in the world and they're seeing some stuff. You see, you have to become before you can do some things. So there's a thin line. Somebody might say, well, I'm wearing this in faith. And I say, no, there's a thin line between faith and foolishness. Ladies, am I right? Some of you just don't want to laugh. No, I'm not just talking about clothes, right? But in life, what is happening to people is that they're jumping to the after before the before. What I'm saying is, God has set your future. He has defined your destiny, right? And He has said that in your future, you're going to do great things and do big things. And He's saying that before you can do these great things, listen carefully, and before you can do these big things, you are going to have to become. Too many people are trying to do great things, but they have not become someone that can do the great things. I'm talking about purpose today. I'm trying to tell you that before you can figure out your purpose, there is a purpose for you. And all of the things that God, the great things and the big things that God has for you to do, right, there is a becoming that has to take place before. You can't jump to the after before you do the before. How many of you understand what I'm saying? Purpose. I actually need you to know that some of you are trying to figure out your purpose, and you will actually not hear what your full purpose is until you have become someone that can handle it. You see, we're trying to hear the big things, the great things, without becoming who He wants us to become. And I'm telling you that sometimes God will withhold revelation. God is going to withhold revelation of what He needs you to do until you can become the person that He needs, the person that you need to be to do it. Because you can't. Some of us will just not hear until we can hear it. You won't hear it. You won't get revelation until you're ready for the revelation. So, those of us in our journey of purpose discovery, those of us in our journey of purpose fulfillment must understand that there is a pre-purpose purpose. And pre-purpose purpose means that you have someone that you need to become so that you can do all of what God has called you to do. How many of you understand what I'm saying? Some of you still stuck on the shorts story. I want to show you a picture, and this is a picture of David and Goliath. Everybody knows this story, right? When you see this story, you have some feelings. This is a picture right before the great victory that David had over a giant called Goliath. You know the story, right? And this is a picture of victory, and at this point of victory, everybody sees what this man is made of, this little young man David is made of. This is the point of victory. At this point, his purpose is established. At this point, he's established as king, right? He becomes in the mind of everybody the king, right? The person that must become king. And he's established in this moment. This is a picture of victory. This is a picture of purpose established. Am I right? But what you need to understand is that this was not the victory that changed the trajectory of David's life. I know you've seen him here. He's about to kill a giant. But this is not actually where David began or where David became a giant killer. What I'm telling you is that you might have just caught this story when David started picking up stones and when he went out in front of Goliath. But God wants you to understand that before David stood up before Goliath, he was already a giant killer. What I'm saying is you don't defeat a giant like Goliath when you're fighting him. You defeat these kinds of giants in your life before you meet the giants. David was already a giant killer. So Goliath called. Goliath said, listen, send your champion, send your greatest champion fighter to come and fight me. Hundreds of men stood in fear. The king himself standing up there in fear. And David said, but I'm a champion. I will fight him. How many of you know that David wasn't even supposed to be there? He wasn't even supposed to be there. He was just obediently carrying food for his brothers. He shows up. He sees an enemy calling for a champion. And David said, I am a champion. I'll fight him. It's almost as if David is the only man that was there that knew who he was. They were looking for a giant killer. And David said, I'm a giant killer. Well, have you killed any giants? He said, no, but I'm a giant killer. Here's what David said to them. Let's read it. 1 Samuel 17. 1 Samuel 17, verse 34, it says, but David said to Saul, Saul was a king, your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off the sheep from the flock, I went after it. I struck it and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. Isn't that powerful? Next. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. You see, this uncircumcised Philistine, he'll be just like one of them because he has defiled the armies of the living God. Somebody say pre-purpose, purpose. David went and he explained to them, right? I know I don't look like a champion, but I'm a champion. Right? I know I don't look like the one that you should send up. I mean, they tried to put Saul's armor on him and say, I need you to look more like a champion than you look because I don't think you're very intimidating. Wear my armor, Saul said. And David said, I don't need to wear your armor, right? I'm already armed. David ran to Goliath, and he's standing there in front of Goliath. He went and got 5 stones. He's standing up there with a stone and 5 stones and a slingshot, right? And he's standing there before and Goliath is laughing, and Goliath is embarrassed, and he's insulted. And Goliath said, is who this you send to me? Is what this you send come here? You send a little boy with sticks and stones to fight me? And again, David had to say, you probably just don't really know who is standing in front of you. You see, I've already gone through a season of preparation for stuff like this. I've already gone through what is called pre-purpose purpose. You see, my purpose is to kill you. My purpose is to become king, but I've already gone through pre-purpose purpose. I've already become who I need to become to defeat you. So I know I don't look like a champion, but I'm a champion. Right? I know that I am not armed the way you think I should be armed, but I'm here to tell you that I am armed and I am dangerous. And of course, everybody knows the story. David went on, just 1 stone, and he killed Goliath. When everybody else, when all the other men in the army of God were praying for safety, praying for God to send an answer and to keep them safe, David was saying, I'm dangerous. Somebody say, I'm dangerous. David became who he needed to become to fulfill his purpose. My concern today is that while you are on your journey to discovering your purpose, that you'll understand that there's somebody you need to be. There's some characteristics that you need developed in your life. There's still some becoming that has to take place. Some of you have to stop doing some stuff and spend some time becoming. Today I'm going to just give you a couple things that David became. And I'm going to encourage you to become these. Is that okay? And then we'll close. Number one, the Bible says that David became a man, what? After God's own heart. David became a man after God's own heart. He's talked about in the New Testament in this way, where it says that God says that I have found David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. He will do everything I want him to do. Have you become a man or a woman after God's own heart? How did David do that? Here's the picture that is given to us. What David did, the Bible says, is that he would sit down with his harp and he would be shepherding and taking care of the sheep. And many times when the sheep are just grazing or the sheep are just sleeping, he would sit there and he would play his harp. And he would allow his heart to get into harmony with God's heart. Being a person after God's own heart is a person that has the beat of their heart beating to the same rhythm as God's heart. A person that is living and following after God's heart is somebody that has gotten so close to God that they can hear the heartbeat of God and that they can allow their heartbeat to be at the same rhythm and in the same harmony as God's heart. It takes time. David would take the time, spend time in worship before his God, while his brothers and them are at war, fighting and training, learning to fight. He's learning to hear the heart of God. He was practicing the presence of God. David got to know God. Some of us have just really never taken the time to know God. David got to know his God, to know what is important to God, to know what God's desires are, to know what is burning and a burden on God's heart. David knew what was on God's heart. David could hear what God was saying. David could, God said go, he would go. God said stop, he would stop. God said go right, he would go right. God said go fight, then he would say yes, I'll go and fight. I want to encourage you while you're worshiping. Well, I want to encourage you to become a worshiper so that you can become someone that is after God's own heart. You will find the heart of God in worship. And I want to encourage you while you're worshiping to begin listening to what God is saying. We think that worship is all about our words and our expression to Him. There comes a time in worship where you have to just let the music play and, close your mouth and open your ears. I want to encourage you to get to the place where you can hear the heartbeat of God, where in worship you will listen to what is on God's heart. All of the great things that God has called you to do are waiting on you to become someone that God can say is a man after God's own heart or a woman after God's own heart. Spend the time to have your heart in harmony with God. Amen? Number 2, David became patient. Some of us don't have no patience. Now, patience just seems like, well, it's just one of those characteristics, right? But patience is so important, especially when you're in a process of preparation. The one thing you need to have is patience. You see, the situation with David is that he had this promise when he was young, right? The prophet Samuel came and gave him this prophetic word that he was going to do great things and he was going to become a king. And I don't know if you can understand, as a little child, knowing that you're going to do great things, but every day you get up and you're not doing great things yet. And you have all of these older siblings and these bigger people around you looking like them doing great things, but you're not doing great things, right? David was sent to a process of preparation that taught him patience. David was sent to tend sheep. How many of you know, if you're going to be a shepherd, you're going to need some patience. Learning patience with sheep. Go and learn to play the harp and tend sheep. God's process of preparation at times is not the process of preparation we want. I need you to know that impatience, I believe, is the number one characteristic, impatience, that causes the abortion and the destruction of purpose. First of all, because people are so impatient that they never actually become who they need to become. Because we want to do so much now that we never become. We're trying to squeeze greatness on before we're ready to put it on. And many of us have found ourselves outside of God's timing. Impatience pushing us outside of his timing. If you won't be patient in a time of preparation, you will not be patient in the fulfillment of your purpose. God is saying, I need you to learn how to be patient. I need you to not only allow your heart to be in rhythm with me, but your life to be in rhythm with my timing. Some of you, your life, the rhythm of your life is faster than the rhythm of God's purpose for you. Some of you have run after the promise and left preparation. Impatience pushing you outside of God's timing. Why are we such impatient people? Especially when we have a promise. Many of us have run after the promise and left and aborted that season of preparation. Are you patient with the process that God has you going through? Number 3, David became a follower. Somebody say a follower. David, the picture that's painted is, young David, just really so obedient to his father, so obedient to his king, right? David would go back and forth. His father would send him to take care of the sheep and send him to take food up to his brothers, send him to go to Saul. If you know the story, he would go to the king and he would play the harp. And he was just an obedient young man learning to follow those that are in charge or in authority over him. And some of us want greatness so much that we refuse to follow anybody. And the only people you're following is on social media. Some of you, the only following you're doing is on Facebook and Instagram. Some of us you need to understand that you will not become the leader that God has called you to be if you don't become the follower that he has called you to be. Too many are refusing to follow. There is a saying, it says that arrogance will lead you to ignorance. Arrogance keeps you wrapped up in ignorance. In other words, some of us think that we are so smart that we know better than those that are in charge of us. Some of you think, I'm really smart. I mean, I'm new, I'm fresh, I'm young, I just graduated, I just finished, I just read that book, I just took that seminar. I'm smarter than the person that God has put in front of me. I'm smarter than the people that God has assigned for me to follow. And that kind of arrogance keeps you ignorant. keeps you from becoming. Some of you, therefore, too smart to listen and too smart to learn anything else from anybody else. A lot of persons are saying, yes, I am submitted, but I'm telling you that you are not submitted to an authority if inside you're saying no. Or if inside you're doing something, and outside, you're doing something else than what they said. I'm just trying to get you to become a follower so that you can become a leader. Following allows you to learn to trust God through someone else. Let me say it this way. Learning to follow is learning to trust God through trusting someone else. I believe that God has put people in your life to lead you in certain areas of your life. And you need to make a decision that you will follow them, even though you're a big person. You say, well, I'm big now, right? I'm smart now. You will not become the leader God has called you to be until you become the follower He has called you to be. Are you okay with that? And He's speaking to some of you today. Number 4, we're almost finished. Number 4, David became faithful. Some of us are practicing faith, but not practicing faithfulness. 1 Samuel 17:13, Jesse's 3 oldest sons had followed Saul to war, right? Jumping to verse 15, but David went back and forth from Saul and to tend his father's sheep at Bethlehem. David was faithful in the small things. David was faithful in the small things. David was faithful in playing the harp and serving his king. Whenever he was called to do so, that's what he did. And he did it well. David was faithful in his shepherding, and he became a good shepherd, and that's actually what prepared him to lead people. God is looking for faithful people. God is saying, I'm looking for people that are faithful in the pasture so that I can give you a platform, so that I can give you a palace, so that I can give you a promotion, so that I can give you an elevated position. I'm saying, but you have to be faithful in the pasture. A lot of us, we just want to do the great things, and we have not become faithful with the small things that He has given us to do. Are you faithful with the little sheep that God has called you to shepherd? God say, turn around and mentor one person. And you're not doing it, but you want to lead 100 people. God said, turn around and disciple 3 people. And you're not doing it, but you want to lead a movement. I want you to understand what I'm saying. God is saying, I need you to be faithful. If you want to become a giant killer, you need to be faithful. If you are, when you become faithful in the pasture, I'll put you in the palace. That's what happened to David. He was so faithful with the little that he had. He was so faithful that when the time was right, it was an easy move for God. Are you faithful? Lastly, last one. David became a winner. Before fighting Goliath, David was already a winner. Are you a winner? Have you been winning in your life? What David did was he gave himself to winning the small battles. David was okay with winning small battles because he knew that winning small battles are preparation for winning bigger battles. And if I can become used to winning small battles, then it will be easier for me to win big battles. So David, after winning a few small battles, said to himself, I think I'm a champion. I've been a champion over this, and I've been a champion over this, and I've been a champion over this. I'm a champion over this. I think I'll be a champion over this giant. How many of you understand what I'm saying? Many of us, too many of us, again, are jumping, looking for giants to fight. And we're not winning any small battles. God is looking for winners, man. God is looking for winners. People that have learned and understand determination in the small things. I win in all of the small things, and that's what makes me a winner. Faithfulness in the small things, winning in the small things. That's what David said. David said, when I was a shepherd, right, it started where a dog would come around and try and trouble the sheep, and I went and I would just kick the dog and the dog. And then from that I moved on to a wolf. A wolf would come and trouble them, and I would run the wolf off. And it started where a bear came, and I went after the bear, and I would strike the bear, and I would kill the bear if him come back. And even a lion came, and I grew in my discipline. I grew into becoming a winner. I made a decision to win in every situation, to start things and to finish them, to complete every task that God has given me to complete. David was a winner. Some of us are trying to do more before we do our best. What I'm saying is we are doing something, and once we get it's okay in how we do it, we're trying to move to more, and God is saying, no, you need to do your best first. Win and be your best in something before you add more to it. Some of us, we have a mentality that we have to do more to feel good about ourselves. Or we want people to see us accomplishing more. God is saying, no, what I need you to do, in all of what I've given you so far, do your best. Be faithful and learn winning. God is looking for winners. And many of his people just are not becoming winners. What are you waiting for to begin winning the small battles in your life? I'm going to close with this. Hundreds of men standing in front of Goliath. But only one was a giant killer. Only one had gone through the purpose, that preparation that God had called him to go through. Somebody say purpose. So what God is saying is, I'm looking for some people that I can come into your life and fulfill my purpose. So we have this saying, Jesus, take the wheel. You know, we say, take the wheel, come into my life, and I yield control to you, and I also want to go, so I want to fulfill my calling in life. Right? And we say, Jesus, take the wheel, and Jesus jumps in your car, takes the wheel, but the car not going anywhere. And Jesus is saying, I can't do something with nothing. I can't do anything with the nothing that you've been doing. Or rather, can't do anything with the nothing that you've become. Or with the somebody that you are not becoming. God is saying, I have great things for you to do, but you have to become someone that can do these things. God is saying, I'd like to reveal purpose to you, but you won't see it until you've become someone that can hear it. God is calling us to a season of purpose, a season of preparation where at the end you will stand and say, I am a champion and I am armed. Where you're saying, God, I hear you clearly who you want me to be. Where you can say, I know that I am a man or I am a woman after God's own heart. Where you can say, I am patient with God, patient in preparation, patient in purpose. Where you can say, I have learned to be a follower, so I know I can be a leader. where you can surely say that I am faithful. I'm faithful in the small things, and I know that I will be strong in the big things. Where you can say, I have become a winner. I'm already a winner. So that you can stand up before your enemies, stand up at that point of purpose in front of your giants and say, I am a champion. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Where you can say to your enemies, today I'm going to cut off your head. Today I'm going to kill you, and today I'm going to feed your carcass to the birds. God is saying, I need you to become. Hey, thank you so much for watching us here, Go for God Family Church on YouTube. Why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button to ensure that you get all of what is new from Go for God Family Church and to ensure that you don't miss anything.